Hey, this is Mark, the founder of Take2Minutes. Today we are chatting with Jamie Morgan. Jamie is a certified counselor and author who I get the privilege of speaking with often. Jamie's book, titled Master of Circumstance, is available on Amazon under his full name, James Morgan. For this particular interview, Jamie and I were already chatting about a topic and decided to start recording in hopes others would find the content interesting and helpful. We were having a quick discussion. We're going to record this in case it helps other people with similar situations. And the question, Jamie, that I was posing to you is, sometimes I find myself with what I call situational anxiety. And it's usually in my mind something minor. I don't have necessarily a panic attack, but I can tell I'm having anxiety. I can tell maybe a little bit of a shortness in my breath or trouble getting a deep breath, and just the desire maybe to flee or get out of the situation. An example I had given to Jamie was recently at the vet. Quite often when I go to the vet, I feel like I spend more time waiting for them, even though my appointment's at 1, I might not get into 1:45, and that waiting, sitting there, sometimes causes me a little bit of, I would consider, anxiety. It's wanting to get up and leave, maybe more difficulty breathing. And so we were having a discussion about what causes that, or what Jamie thinks I should do in those situations. I think it could help others. So let's continue this discussion, Jamie.
So the first thing I would do, Mark, is I would open up my phone and I would go to the Take2Minutes website, or I would respond to the text message and I would say, ground me.
Grounding exercise. That's a good one. Yes.
Right? Because when you ground, what's the purpose of a grounding exercise? It's
my understanding, making you recognize the present, recognize things around you, bring you into the moment. Is that correct?
Okay, so that's better. Bringing me into the moment, but more importantly, it's going to stop my mind from ruminating and wondering. Right? So depression, focusing on the past. Anxiety, focusing on the future.
Right.
Both are really, and I say this gingerly, unnatural. Like, you shouldn't feel that way. That's just a mechanism of your brain doing something that's not present focused, right? So first off, I want to ground myself, okay? So I like the ground me techniques. Those are all really good. I'm going to tell you one that I use. I like to count on my fingers, okay? And I make sure I'm intentional about my fingers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then count up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 2, all the way up to 15. Not that fast, slower and more intentional. Right. But when I do that, man, it makes a huge difference, because now all my focus, all my attention, all my senses are right here on my hand versus the other thing I want you to do is, once you get grounded, as you kind of slow your breathing down, right? Because that's what's going to happen as well. You got to be figuring out and looking at, okay, so what's causing my anxiety right now? A lot of times it's something that's coming up. I've already pushed my window of opportunity to make this appointment and get to this appointment in the first place. We all live very busy lives, Mark.
Yes.
So this is not a Mark's a bad person. This is just like, this is human nature, right? It's like, okay, my dog's not feeling well. I got to get my dog into the vet. Well, we have an appointment open at 1:15. Oh, man, I can't go during the day, but my wife can't go. All right, I'll make it work. So I'm going to plan my day around, okay, I'm going to be there. I got to get there at 1:15. That means I'm probably going to leave the house by 1. It's probably going to be a half hour or 45-minute thing, then drive. Okay, so I'm going to leave my house at 1. I'm not even going to be home till 2:30. That is so tight. And everything's hinging on go, go, go.
Right.
Then I get there. Hi, Mr. Fussell, how are you? Right? And, I'm fine. And you go sit down. Hey, I'm here to bring my dog in. Okay, good. And you sit there and you're watching your watch.
Yes.
And it's 1 o'clock. And now it's 1:15. And there's still 4 people that were here when you walked in that haven't went in. Now I'm doing the math. Okay, 1:15, at least these people are like, let's say they're 10 minutes apiece. Oh, that's another 30 minutes. I don't have time. I can't sit here until 12:45 or 1:45 before I even go back. I got to be back home at 2:30 because I got a meeting and I got this and I got that. Right? So we get ourselves thinking and ruminating down that path. As we calm ourselves down, now we can start thinking more logically. Right? When we hit anxiety, we tend to become more emotional. Right? When we're emotional, we're not thinking clearly. So it's a lot of this has to do with like the amygdala, right? So the amygdala is the fight or flight.
Okay.
Okay. So listen, man, back in the caveman days, we had things to be worried about.
Right.
Hey, there's a saber-toothed tiger. Oh no, run. Right? Like that's something to be concerned about. Well, there's no saber-toothed tigers running around right now, eating people. Right? There's no tribes that are going to come and steal your food and kill you. We don't have that kind of stuff going on anymore. So now, instead of having that visceral and understandable, like, oh, there's a tiger, I should be concerned and go, the amygdala still is looking for what's wrong. Ding. Oh gosh, that's an email from my boss. I'm stressed. Fight or flight just kicked in.
Makes sense.
Not being back in time for my meeting. Fight or flight kicks in. When fight or flight kicks in, there's a disconnect between the logical part of my brain and the emotional part of my brain. I can't even access the logical for the most part. Here's the evidence. Mark, you ever been in an argument and afterwards, when it's all said and done and you slowed down, you say, man, I should have said, or I forgot to say?
I would think I do that all the time. Yes.
We do that all the time, right? That's the evidence that you're operating in emotion. So we got to slow it down, get back to logic. What's within my control? What's outside of my control?
Right.
So anytime you feel anxious, that's another thing to really do. Make a list. Make a list of everything that you're anxious about. Mark out the stuff that is outside of your control, and then control what you can control.
That's a lot of messages to take 2 minutes about that. If it's something that's outside your control, then don't focus on it, because you should focus on things only you can control. So it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, if it's outside of your control, it's outside of your control. There's nothing to do. Right? So look, maybe when you schedule those appointments, you create a window and a mindset. Hey, I'm going to go there, but my window is I'm going to get there a little bit early. Hopefully, I can get ahead of the line of someone else, and then I have a window of tolerance that I can operate in. And if I hit 125, I have a plan. I'm just going to have to pack up and leave, or I might say, hey, I'm going to leave my dog here. You guys take care, and then I'll come back and pick him up at 4:30. Is that okay? And maybe you work that out beforehand.
Right.
Say, I want to stay for the appointment, but if it gets too far behind, no big deal. I can come back and get him. People will do that, right? As long as you communicate it ahead of time. Make a plan and then follow your plan.
I think a lot of this applies to other situations for individuals too. One reason I wanted to discuss this in a recording is for people to hear how it might affect them. And, I was just giving an example. I'm sure there are people who have really tough anxiety situations for things similar but different than what we just talked about. And I will say, like, I know people just sometimes being in public around people can give them anxiety. And I think a lot of the things you talk about still apply there to what can you control, what can't you control. And it's the whole amygdala. What's the word again?
The amygdala.
Amygdala. Thank you. That's, people get that fight or flight feeling, and they don't recognize it necessarily as fight or flight, but it's a sense of fear they have because of the situation they're in. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, absolutely, 100%, right? So again, let's say you're afraid of, like, you don't really care to be around a lot of people. Well, your tolerance. Maybe if I can't sit 2 seats away from every person in the place, what am I going to do? Are you going to sit there and be anxious, or are you going to take control? If it happens and someone sits down next to me, I'll get up and move. If there's nowhere to move to, I'll tell the person up front, hey, I'm going to run outside to my truck. How long? Or here's my phone number. Will you call me when it's my time to come in?
Yeah. Good idea.
That's inside of my control.
Yep.
I can do that. And no one's going to freak out about that.
Right.
Yeah, no problem. And look, you can lie if you want to. Hey, I got to go take a phone call. Can you call me or text me when it's time? We didn't have that technology back then.
Right.
When you and I were growing up, it's like if you weren't there, number 40, oh, he's out, 41, right? Now it's like, yeah, I'll text you real quick. And then they text you real quick, right?
And these are good suggestions and the purpose of our discussions. And I would encourage anyone who has questions to reach out and let us know about the questions, because we can talk about these to Jamie in future episodes just like this. I think it's a good topic for people to listen to and realize and maybe associate with themselves.
Yeah, that's right, man. Remember, it's in the future. You're worried about what's going to happen in the future. The future's out of your control. So the best thing to do is, how do I get myself right here in the moment, present, right? Being present removes depression and anxiety both.
Good. Well, thanks for the information, Jamie. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. Have a great day.
Thanks for listening. I hope you found that discussion helpful and interesting. If there are any topics you would like to hear discussed, head over to take2minutes.org and use the Contact Us form to submit your suggestions. Also, if you appreciate our content, sign up for an account at take2minutes.org. Subscriptions help us to continue generating new content. Thanks again.